It's like the Holy Grail. We have to open it up and see if it's real.
You look in first in case your face melts. Well, there's a problem.
See, look at this.
Yeah.
That's not as bad as I thought.
Oh, yeah. That's why it's stuck, though. Let's resume the beating. Hey, this is David with Hagerty on our Red Line Rebuilds. I'm here with Tom Cotter in our mystery box. Well, it's not exactly a mystery box, right? Because the last time you saw this mystery box, engine box, it was down in North Carolina, and we boxed it up. We pulled the engine out of the Pantera, and boom, it's here in Traverse City. And now we're gonna do the honors, pull it out of the box, put it on an engine stand, and we're gonna figure out why this thing won't turn over.
You know, I'm curious. I've been thinking about this. How many things will stop an engine from turning over or locking up? So I'm thinking, I mean, the easy thing is rusty cylinders, right?
Rings, yes.
Rings. Spun bearing.
Yes.
Broken valve that's locked up in a cylinder.
Correct.
Give me
But
some more.
usually, if it's a broken valve, you usually can go 180 or, you know, somewhere around 360 degrees.
And you will lock in both directions.
Keep catching, yeah, you catch in one direction.
All right, what else?
This won't budge either direction, so that tells me it's the crankshaft or the rings or pistons. Because your aluminum pistons could be swelled up, they could be, you know, caught in the bore. The other thing is what we have in the Great White North is cold. So if it froze, you can always bring in a cylinder wall and it'll do the same thing. It'll pinch the piston.
Camshaft broken?
Not usually.
You would have gotten a little wiggle out of the crank, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, I had a huge breaker bar on it and it wouldn't budge. Now, one of the things we did do, right, we sprayed it down with some Croil.
Yep.
And maybe over the past couple months, that's freed it up. So we might find that we are like, oh yeah, hell, there's no problem at all.
I'd like that.
I bet you we don't, though. All right, let's get this unwrapped. Bring it right to the back here. Hey, look at that.
So this is when we were optimistic and we thought like points and plugs
it was gonna run.
and wires would have started it. We quickly learned they wouldn't.
Hey, if you like what you're watching, do me a favor. Go check out the Hagerty Drivers Club. 24/7 roadside assistance with flatbed towing, subscription to our award-winning magazine, and more. Sign up today. Links right down here in the description. All right, let's get into this. So I'll methodically here, let's pull the distributor out of the way, get our fuel pump out of the way so we're not fighting this stuff, and then go after the valve covers, intake manifold, and start getting into the guts of this. And maybe we'll see ugly.
Can I help, quick. Or do you want me to just stand back and watch?
Well, I mean, I know you got your gloves on, and I hate to have you get those dirty. Why don't you start with the distributor?
I'll do it.
You pull the distributor, and then we'll go from there.
Good.
Keeping it together. I try to keep the bolts and everything.
Yeah.
For now.
So the last Ford motor you did, was that Brad Phillips?
Yeah, the 289.
No, he said it's too much horsepower.
Good, we did our job.
Perfect. Yes, look at they can't put the oil pump on it right.
Yeah, but they know where to put the distributor.
And the distributor's in the front, all
That's
that.
where it should be.
No.
Adjusting the points on a
Chrysler
GM car.
Chrysler can't figure it out, can't decide where to put it. They put it on every end. I'm surprised they don't have it under the car.
Oh yeah, how about that with
like that's how
GM
they
cars?
build
A starter
cars
motor
nowadays.
under the intake manifold?
Not GM,
Oldsmobile.
Toyota,
Oldsmobile.
Oldsmobile.
Oldsmobile had the starter motor under the intake manifold.
What car was that?
Tornado.
Oh.
Where's Oldsmobile now? See, if they had starter motors in traditional position, they'd probably be still in business.
Maybe. Jeez, Bates.
Wow. That is a deep pan.
Wow, I guess so.
Wow,
Doesn't look as bad as I was expecting there.
pretty clean. And what did this car have? 45,000 miles on it.
Yeah, pretty low mileage. So with looking at the top side here with the rockers and how clean it is, there's no built-up gunk. It kind of surprises me. I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see what it's got to all be in the crank.
So,
Rotating
if this
side.
had a blown head gasket, would you not see evidence?
Yeah, you should see evidence in the exhaust ports.
Is this rust?
Yeah.
You know, it could have been just moist air over the decades,
Well, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Just going in there.
Yeah, condensation in the cylinders is still what I'm expecting, but I'm really surprised at how clean it is up top.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like it was running 2 days ago and on a fresh build.
Yeah.
It's
Pretty clean.
just as clean too.
So here's what I'm
Wasn't
wondering.
doing diddly, but
This cylinder has a little bit of rust.
and
And
this
that
one.
cylinder has a little bit of rust. I wonder if those two valves are open.
Yes, this one is.
Uh-huh.
You want to lift that off of there? Probably only 70 pounds.
Ooh.
Well, there's a problem.
See, look at this. It's a blown head gasket, isn't it?
Yep, that's true. What it looks like.
So this cylinder's going to look ugly.
Yep, that cylinder's gonna have all the shit.
Yep.
That's where it's stuck. So far we have, obviously, the intake off. We didn't take this cover off yet because we've already discovered that we have this cylinder and this cylinder definitely has a blown head gasket or has been leaking because there is coolant sitting on top of the intake valve here and the intake valve on this side. And like you had mentioned, Tom, those two exhaust ports were cleaned. So basically, if your head gasket blows, you steam clean the carbon out of that hole because it's hot steam coming out of there and peels it all out. Looking further though, we have this hole. You can see the intake valve sure looks like it's rusted to the seat. Mm-hmm. Now that's not necessarily going to stop it from rolling over, meaning you can overcome it and bend the push rod. Granted, it'll take a lot of effort to do that, but I'm still betting we have a stuck. When we get this off, I bet we're still going to have just a nasty cylinder with rust and a piston that needs to be beat.
Being that the early Panteras had an extreme overheating problem, does this make sense?
Yeah, especially with how clean it is from an oil standpoint, right?
Yeah.
It didn't cook it that way. So it was early on. It was, and it only had, what you said, 30-some thousand miles
40,
on that?
42 or
42.
something, yeah.
So, low mileage, but a blown head gasket definitely puts it in the garage for a while.
Do you think you're the first one to take this motor apart since it was assembled?
Looks like it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, this looks like a factory tin.
Uh-huh.
Well, let's proceed with getting this valley pan out of the way, and then we'll take the rocker assemblies all off and get the heads out.
Yeah, so this is going to be pretty exciting. This number 2 cylinder here, I think.
Mm-hmm. What's going to be really exciting is when you're slamming the pistons out of it with a hammer.
I got to go. I don't know if I told you that.
Yeah, that's when the fun really is going to occur. Yeah.
That's not as bad as I thought.
Oh, yeah. That's why it's stuck, though. Okay, so our initial thought here was that we would have a blown head gasket specifically on this cylinder because of all the corrosion and water junk that's in that intake port. This doesn't mean Well, looking at the gasket, I'm going to say the gasket's intact. The gasket didn't fail. Right. But that doesn't mean that that head's not cracked or the cylinder block is cracked, basically doing the same thing, effectively. And if it did overheat, that head potentially warped and lifted up, and then it was sucking fluid in.
That's probably not, I mean, wouldn't you see evidence of that here?
Well, you would think so, yes.
Yeah.
You would think, just like here where the water was, that's a block off port, where the water was sitting against it and you have rust, you would think you would see a line,
sure.
Or I would expect to see a line of corrosion there too, even after it, failed. Obviously, as we continue and we go through and clean the motor up, we're gonna mag check it. So we'll be looking for cracks in the cylinders and of course on the head. Let's get the other head off first and then see what we got with both of them at the same time.
Yeah.
We have this other head off. Kind of seeing the same issue. This cylinder certainly has a lot of rust in it, more so than just condensation. So this must have been leaking as well. Our coil is still on the top of this piston, so evidently it's not broke free either. But anyhow, at this point, I don't have anything in the way except for the crank and the pistons. So I want to see if I can turn this over by hand at this point. Maybe there was enough of resistance with the valves that was causing a problem, but quite frankly, why not?
I'm wondering, we thought a blown head gasket in one cylinder could have done this, but now we're seeing a problem on several cylinders.
Yeah.
And no signs of head gasket failure. I have a hard time believing that we'd have that many cracked cylinders or valve.
That's I'm thinking it overheated because you could warp both cylinders. Yep.
Yeah. You're gonna bend your bar there.
Oh.
Really?
I tightened it. I just tightened the bolt more. It did move, but it means I hit about 120 foot-pounds of torque, and that is not moving it. Well, here's my thought, Tom. I think you should take it right from here, because this is where all the fun really begins. Get that sledgehammer out and some heat.
Did I tell you I got to leave early? It's a long drive back to North Carolina.
Well, obviously this engine's been neglected for a long time. And you know what else is bad to neglect for a long time? Your mental health. And today's sponsor may be exactly what you need, BetterHelp. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who is trained to listen and give you helpful, unbiased advice. Like getting an old engine running, starting therapy can be hard. Finding a therapist in your area might even be tougher. And maybe a face-to-face interaction isn't your thing, but that is where BetterHelp comes in. With BetterHelp, you can have your therapy session at your own home, can be conducted over the phone, a video chat, or text messaging. Whatever version of therapy is comfortable for you. Simply go to betterhelp.com/Hagerty, fill out the questionnaire. That questionnaire will be used to assign you to a therapist, usually within 48 hours. If your first therapist doesn't fit, they have 30,000 in their network. You can easily switch to a new therapist at no additional cost. And no worry about whether they're in or out of some insurance network. If you think you might benefit from therapy, then consider BetterHelp. Clicking that link helps support this channel and gives you 10% off your first month of BetterHelp. Go to betterhelp.com/Hagerty. Yeah, no. We're not going anywhere. So, I guess let's flip her over, get the pan off, start pulling caps and, well, beating the daylights out of the backside of the pistons. All right, so while Ben has me taking my sweet time pulling out these pan bolts, while the camera goes clickety-clack over here. looking, see what I mean? So we have, I'm looking right here at our block numbers. So this is block, D as in dog, 2, A as in apple, E as in Edward, dash, C as in Charlie, A as in apple. But then the all-knowing and all-telling, when was it built? Does it, numbers match, all that good jazz. So date code is 2, C as in Charlie, 1-6. So in Ford land, the first digit is the last digit of the year. So 1972. Of course, oddly enough, I think this is always funny. You have to at least know what decade it is from, because it could be 62, right? But anyhow, so 72, C is the third month of the year, which would be March. And then 16, obviously the date, or the day of the week, or day of the month, I should say, which would be 16. So March 16th of 1972 is when this block was cast, not to be confused with built. I'm betting we're not going to see any rust back here because it's all on the other side. I think I know why there's so much oil everywhere. That was not held on by anything. Ugh. Yuck. That's disgusting. Try not to pull the stand over here. Do you see that nastiness in the pan? That's gross. Ugh. I think I can get these two out. I might be able to get that one out. Basically what I'm looking at is can I access the nuts on the rods. Guess I'll have to get a wrench. No? Oh, you know what? I probably should label these. Okay, well, we have our pan off, pulled our oil pump out of the way. We're about ready to start beating the daylights out of these pistons to get them out. But one thing I'll say stop right here and make sure all my rods and caps are numbered, because they all need to go back into the same hole if we reuse the rods. And sometimes they're labeled, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're in order and sometimes they're not, because we've ran into both. So in this case, so far, looks like, I'm assuming right straight from the factory, these are all labeled. So here's one, which should be in 1, so that's good. Right here? Yeah, 1. And there's 2, here's 3, and here's 4. And then 8, 7, 6, then 5. So because, if this is rotated the right way up, Ford labeled, started with number 1 over here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, opposed to different firing orders like all the rest of the world. Ford's other way. This is the easy one. There's that one. That one's in there. And those are the ones we didn't think were stuck. Till there. Hey. just broke it loose. Look at that. Yeah, that one was not so good. Okay, well, right there was 100% the culprit. It was locked in. You can see white corrosion from the piston, aluminum, rotted in, and there's a ridge in here. I took off with some sandpaper from the bore. All right, let's get this pulley out of here. Plenty of torque on it. Right in the soup. Yuck. Ooh, the original nylon. Nice. Look at this. Holy smokes. Can you say chain stretch? Still has the plastic teeth. I'm surprised they're on there given how sloppy that is. It wore right out. Weird. Pretty sure this will come off. She's so sloppy. Yeah. This thing would have ran like a turd with that being so sloppy. Got a big main cap, wide. It's nice. It won't come out. There it is. Whew. Now, mind you, using a MIG welder to tear down an engine isn't the typical tool you use until you run into a spot where a bolt has broken off. This timing cover bolt has broke off, or was broken off actually when we got there. So I'm just gonna pull the gasket back a little bit and be able to get to that. But what I'm going to do is take happens to be a 7/16 nut, but then take a nut, weld it onto that. It's going to stick to the steel bolt before it sticks to the block, being cast iron. And if I get enough heat penetration in there, it'll loosen up that bolt and turn it right out with the hex. Sometimes it works on the first try, sometimes on the 20th try, but I've never had it fail me from taking one out. So here we roll. Look at that. First try. There it is. Problem solved. Well, block is apart. And now we're gonna move on to the heads and pull out the valves and the springs and the keepers and retainers. This could be interesting just because, well, there's a lot of rust and could be froze up, so we'll see how it goes. Might have to give it a little whackety whack. Yeah, tight. And we don't need to stretch her that far either. That's okay. Yeah. That work? Little deposits on the back of that. Not so good. We have valves out of the first head, and there's a couple of them pretty stinking ugly. What's interesting is how much crud, oily crud, is in whichever hole this was, but on the intake side, so I don't know whatever poured down through that was still there. This is probably mostly condensation or a mouse house that added a little moisture to the tops of the backside of those valves and rusted up all the cylinders. This was never really burning all that grand because it's carboned up like crazy. Both cylinder heads are completely tore apart, and a couple things you always want to look as you tear things down is, it gives you some indicators of condition of the motor, obviously. And a couple things I find that are interesting is there's a lot of carbon in the other cylinders, but there's a cylinder on each head that are across from each other, ironically, that have like a growth. Like, better way to put it. You'll see that there's not only growth that it was around the valve, but then down the port, there's some stuff coming out from the wall. That could be a crack, but that is certainly where we're going to be a little sensitive when we're going through things and make sure we really mag flux these heads. And here's all the pieces out of this motor. We're pretty much all apart except for what I can't do, which is like pull the pistons off. But I'm going to take all these, run them through the Gladiator parts washer, and then get them over to the machine shop. But hey, while I'm cleaning up parts and enjoying that fun stuff, get out in the shop, go get some work done. See ya.